Tonight, the community is speaking out following a very violent weekend in Detroit. They are raising their concerns about
Detroit consistently tops the list of America's most dangerous cities.
I never want another family to go through what me and my family went through when Denzel was murdered. But I thank God for facial recognition, because facial recognition helped solve my cousin's murder.
To combat crime, the police have implemented facial recognition technology and a network of surveillance cameras, arguing digital policing will keep residents safe.
The problem is the underlying premise that the city pushes, that this is a solution.
But critics say the technology is racist and could land innocent people behind bars.
The software is not accurate at all when it comes to predominantly black cities.
Where would you be right now if the judge looking at the photos made the same mistake that the artificial intelligence did?
I'd be in prison right now, for sure.
A controversial topic was put before the Detroit City Council. Members voted on a facial recognition contract that opponents call flawed technology.
The software that many people say inaccurately identifies people of color.
So I've come to the city of Detroit, which has generated quite a bit of controversy lately because of its very pronounced use of facial recognition technology in policing.
Studies show that the systems don't perform equally across race, sex, and age, and that's relevant in a city like Detroit, which has the largest percentage of African American residents in the country.
They got you reading the book? Pay attention, son.
Why do we celebrate his birthday in January, you guys? What did MLK do?
I've been through a lot. It don't show, but yeah, I've grown up. I've been through a lot.
Protested those laws that were in place.
At a young age, I lost my mama died, I lost my daddy.
He showed compassion and courage to challenge unfair laws.
Like, I made my mistakes in life, but it came a point in time once I had my son, my life changed. Like, I started working, everything started falling in hand for me, and this happened.
Cell phone recording. Huh?
Oh, we're recording everything.
Take me back to that day. What happened? Where were you?
I was in Ferndale, Michigan, on my way to work one morning. Ferndale police got behind me, pulled me over, came up to my car, told me I had a felony warrant out for my arrest, took me out of the car, handcuffed me, put me in the back of the police car. They told me I was being charged with larceny from a person.
The saga began in May 2019 when a Detroit Public Schools community district teacher, Stephen Cassani, began filming a bunch of young people near the school. One reached into his car, grabbed his phone, and threw it. Stephen reported the cracked screen and broken case, damages of $150 to DPD.
I was nervous because, I got a job. I was scared I was going to lose my job. I lost all hope because I was already on probation. That case, it would have sent me to prison. I'd never been to prison before, but that case would have sent me to prison.
What were you on probation for?
I was on probation for a prior, like a drug case. Like, I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Mm-hmm. I didn't commit no crime. I wasn't caught with no drugs and none of that. But I didn't know the law, so I just wanted to get out of jail, so I took the probation they gave me.
What happened next?
I get up and go to work the next morning, and they called me to the office because I was in jail for 2 days. So they're like, why you ain't come to work? I said I was incarcerated for something that I really didn't do. But they didn't accept that. So once I lost the job, it's like everything dropped for me. Like, I was behind on car notes, I was behind on rent, and it's a certain time that you gotta pay your rent, pay your car note, or they evicting you and they taking your car, and that's what they did.
You lost your car?
Lost my car, was behind on rent, had to move out the house where me and my girl was staying at.
So it was once you entered court that you found out that it was photographic evidence that they were using to accuse you of a crime?
Yes.
And then at what point did you see the photos?
The photos, like the third court date.
What was your reaction when you saw that?
It was crazy, like, it was mind-blowing.
Michael Oliver was arrested on the basis of a match from facial recognition. Investigators took a still image from the video of the incident and fed it through a software program created by the company DataWorks Plus. The photo was compared to hundreds of thousands of mugshots. Michael's face came up as a possible match. The match is based on measurements of the geometry of the human face, the space between your eyes, the slope of your cheekbone, or the length of your nose. These numbers create a unique face print that is then compared to the many other faces in the database until a match occurs. And there are lots of matches to choose from. As of 2016, at least 117 million Americans had images of their faces in one or more police databases. But in Michael's case, the computer got it wrong.
I looked nothing like that person. Like the lady, the judge read over whatever she had in front of her and just dismissed the case. She said like, this is not him. So she automatically dismissed the case.
Was there any argument about it? Like,
no, it wasn't an argument at all.
Like, under a certain light, a certain angle, it could be him?
Nope.
Nothing?
Nope. So I went in front of my probation judge. He extended my probation another year for me being incarcerated, even though the case was dismissed. They gave me another year for the violation for being incarcerated.
Wrongfully incarcerated?
Wrongfully incarcerated.
So you're still to this day on probation?
On probation, yes. Get off this month. But I would have been off last year, this month.
Where would you be right now if the judge looking at the photos made the same mistake that the artificial intelligence did and thought that you guys were the same person?
I'd be in prison right now. Like, I'd be in prison, for sure, like a max of 5 years, for sure.
Tonight, the community is speaking out following a very violent weekend in Detroit. They are raising their concerns about a growing number of fatal shootings.
Bloodshed on the streets of Detroit is becoming too much to bear. Just 2 days ago, 30 people were victims of gun violence in a 24-hour period.
Detroit police are investigating at least 6 weekend shootings, leaving 2 people dead.
What's the end result to all this murder?
To combat the high crime rate, police have built a web of technology. In addition to the facial recognition software, they have also partnered with local businesses to implement a camera surveillance network known as Project Greenlight. These cameras allow police to monitor locations around the clock in real time. Businesses that participate in the program must display a bright flashing green light, signaling to the community that the cameras are rolling and they are being watched.
So we're now in an area where I'm starting to see a lot of these flashing green lights sitting on top of businesses, and it's interesting. It has a strange dual effect. On the one hand, it says, "Welcome to a bad neighborhood," but on the other hand, if I had to pull over for gas, I'm probably going to be pulling into a gas station with a green light. What does Project Greenlight have to do with facial recognition?
Project Greenlight essentially started off with 8 or 9 cameras at like gas stations that stayed open late. And over the course of a year, they went from 8 or 9 cameras to 500. And then in the course of another year, they went up to 700. What they didn't tell community members or even the businesses was that facial recognition would be a component of that.
So based on the work that you have done, how has the DPD responded?
Initially, when they entered into the agreement with DataWorks Plus, they wanted face recognition on everything. They wanted it on traffic lights, they wanted it on unlimited mobile devices, they wanted it on drones, they wanted it on green light cameras, they wanted it on any camera that they could gain access to. And they wanted real-time tracking. Now, since a lot of social justice activism, they're unable to do the real-time tracking, but they are able to still pull those images from the video surveillance, make a still image, and feed it through the database.
Despite the uproar over facial recognition technology, the City Council has effectively doubled down on this.
Recently, Detroit City Council approved an extension of the DataWorks Plus contract and an additional $200,000 to allow Detroit police to use face recognition technology.
Given the data-driven culture that we live in, and how much each and every one of us likes to feed the big machine of data, through our photos, through our shopping habits, through our internet browsing habits. Isn't a lot of this just inevitable?
You know, I feel like, yes, innovation is inevitable, right? But this wouldn't be the first time we pull back on something that we realized wasn't good for the greater of humanity. Our civil liberties are being violated. We're perpetually in a lineup 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So imagine you're anyone who lives in the state of Michigan. If you've taken a state ID or a driver's license in the state of Michigan, you are in that database. And if a crime is committed, they're going to go through whoever looks like the person they think committed the crime. And you're in a lineup you don't even know that you're in.
Is Project Greenlight bringing down the crime rate in Detroit?
No. So there has been some what are considered like car thefts or carjackings have been deemed to decrease slightly, but overall crime in the city has not been reduced.
The homicide rate in Detroit actually increased from 261 in 2018 to 273 in 2019. But other crimes, like carjackings and theft, went down, and the police attribute this in part to the use of technology in their policing.
Late last year, we had a quadruple shooting at an LGBTQ party. When the suspect came into that location, and this is pre-COVID, he was wearing a full facial mask. He shot 5 people, 3 of them were fatal, 2 survived. And so as our investigators started doing their work, we didn't have a lot to go on other than a body and clothing description. This suspect, we checked the immediate area where the party was. He was at a green light gas station just prior to the shooting. So we were able to take that image of that individual, what we call a probe photo, where we're looking at a video and we see an image of a person. We take a probe photo and we then insert it into facial recognition. Within less than 24 hours, suspect was identified and arrested. Had it not been for the use of the technology in Greenlight Detroit, it would have been a whodunit. What our critics have oftentimes said when we had a significant number of conversations about Greenlight is that we have facial recognition software embedded into our Greenlight cameras. Absolutely untrue. There's not one real-time use of facial recognition, so it's important to make that note.
So you have a standard for which you would apply facial recognition technology, and it has to be something involving a violence of some nature.
It has to be a violent crime, and we don't do, some cities, some jurisdictions may allow for property crimes. We don't use it in that manner, only violent crimes.
I mean, but the fact that you only use this for the most egregious of crimes and not for some of the lesser crimes, is that in any way sort of an acknowledgement that using facial recognition brings adherent risks or disadvantages?
Not at all. If the software was to run alone, if we were just to say, put a photograph in and let the software do all the work, and it wasn't managed and assessed by a well-trained analyst, then it would misidentify most times. Because the computer says, you might get a series of photographs. Let's use 50, for example. The computer software will say, these are 50 probables. And the computer is saying the number 1 probable is the most likely person that we're identifying. And that's not the case. The investigator knows it's a possible match. It's not enough to go out and make an arrest. It's just a tool that we use to further the investigation only.
So given the multiple layers and the multiple sets of eyes that go through each and every one of these photos that is flagged by the investigators, how did Michael Oliver slip through the cracks?
Well, the one individual that you're making reference to was before we had our existing policy.
The due diligence of comparing the photographs wasn't quite done. We sent the image to the detective, but then from there the detective has to go out and actually look at the photo and compare it to any other information. Was this person at the area of where the crime happened? Do they match any other records that they're looking for that relate to the actual crime? And so that wasn't all done at that time, and so that goes to the investigative work.
So you attribute the citywide drop in crime?
In part.
In part.
Yes.
to the installation of these cameras?
Absolutely. Undoubtedly, we don't see carjackings occurring at the places that I told you about that we saw like 7 years ago.
What do you say to those who are concerned that more and more our privacy is being eroded? I can't go anywhere in the city without being photographed, without being surveilled.
I say one thing, we're in the public space, and I'll also say, when are we ever going to have a conversation about the victims and their families?
That's really good. I like what you did there. I really like that. Keep going, don't stop. Oh, yes. But you see how you're coming off the line? Yeah. I want you to step, yeah. Don't erase it. When you get to the next one, you know what you did wrong there, so you figure it out, okay? Take the time. It's really the patience that's really the key, okay? High five it. Keep getting there. Yep, keep practicing. Him and my little baby cousin Zay, that's his son. They look just like on here, that one. Him and his sister Mariah. I always thought this was cute. Look how little they were. That's so crazy to me. This one here. I got a picture with that on my shirt. He'd truly be missed. This is what they took away from us. A good heart, a good spirit, a good all-around person. Denzel was 29 years old. His birthday is November 30th. My birthday is December 1st. We are less than 24 hours apart.
Had his whole life ahead of him.
Whole life ahead of him. Smart, a father. Kids won't get a chance to see how awesome he was, what type of person he was, not because my cousin didn't want to be a dad, but because people robbed him of that. And it's not fair. It's wrong and it hurts. Like, it's not okay. My cousin deserves justice and he will get justice. Like, we will not stop screaming it until we make sure it's done.
Yeah. So how did investigators go about looking into this case?
We kept getting dead ends until we got into facial recognition. Facial recognition was able to tell us basically what Denzel did the whole day prior to him being murdered. Denzel went to the laundromat with these guys. He's on camera with these guys at the laundromat. Then they on camera at the hospital dropping his body off. Denzel considered these people friends. They murdered him inside of that house and tried to clean up the crime scene. Cut the carpet, took the carpet to the bar, where also facial recognition catches them dropping the carpet off on the corner of the block where the crime scene happened. Without facial recognition, we would have never known. We couldn't do it all on our own. Facial recognition definitely helped us as well as the detectives that were working the case.
You know, there are a lot of people who cite privacy concerns and cite the concerns about the inaccuracy of facial recognition, particularly when it comes to identifying or misidentifying people of color. Mm-hmm. What aren't they understanding? What don't they understand you'd like for them to see?
I personally feel like nothing is perfect. It doesn't matter what it is, nothing is perfect. So you can't expect to use a tool such as facial recognition and expect for every time you use it for it to be exactly what you need. Some type of way you have to do the legwork. I never want another family to go through what me and my family went through when Denzel was murdered. It's not something that you get over. If facial recognition can help, we all need it. Everybody needs something.
Following community pressure, Detroit police did start to release weekly reports on who they were arresting using facial recognition technology, and there are some clear trends. As of October 2020, the technology had only generated a lead 60% of the time, and again, that lead was not necessarily correct. About a quarter of the images used came from Project Greenlight, and of the 107 times the software was used, all but 3 suspects were black, meaning a program that routinely misidentifies black faces is primarily used to identify black suspects.
The software is not accurate at all when it comes to predominantly black cities. It misidentifies sometimes up to 100 times when you compare it to white faces, right? And so we call it a racist technology because it's replicating racial bias that starts with humans and then is programmed into technology. And so predominantly white cities, 13 of them and counting, have banned this technology because even with a fixed algorithm, even with 100% recognition, it's a violation of civil liberties and privacy.
If business owners want this technology to feel safe, to safeguard their businesses, isn't this a positive? Isn't this a success?
It's Dr. King said in the 60s that we have to come to a place where we prioritize people over profits, property rights, and machines. And we still haven't answered that call. We're prioritizing businesses, most of which don't live here. The folks don't live here, they come in here, they make their money, they're secured with priority 1 police protection, and then they go home while the neighborhoods that surround them are disinvested in and the residents there are not feeling safe. And so I think that is not a success. I think that is a misdirection of funds and priorities. I'm not a person who justifies wrongdoing, but I'm a person who looks at the deeper analysis around why we might have these situations happening. I'm a resident here. I've been here my whole life, and I want to be safe as well, but I want to invest in things that create safety, and I know that this system has not created safety.
What are we up against? We have to be in the streets to get this crooked ass system to do the thing that they claim they do every day. They claim they're dispensing justice and they're keeping everybody safe. Real justice needs to be served.
Y'all ready? Lives matter.
It doesn't actually keep us safe, the surveillance. It doesn't stop crime. The city of Detroit, for example, their facial recognition program has a 96% rate of failure, of misidentification. And they say, oh, well, we factor in that error by having humans look over what comes out. But that's a lot of money being wasted on a program that's only accurate 4% of the time.
In 2019, the city of Detroit spent roughly $294 million on the police department, which includes funding for Project Greenlight. What does Project Greenlight signal to a community?
What it does is it personalizes the systemic problem, right, onto individuals. It's like when you've seen park benches that all of a sudden have armrests in the middle of them, and they're designed purposefully that way to keep people from laying down, right? They're saying we don't want loiterers, we don't want you laying down on these benches, but they're not talking about why people might need to lay down on the bench. They're not talking about homelessness. They're addressing a symptom, not the problem. But the problem isn't the tension between the business owners and the community members. The problem is the underlying premise that the city pushes, that Project Greenlight pushes, that this is a solution. It's not an equitable solution to anything, except for the continued stratification of our community. And that unless we start addressing those issues of education, unless we start pumping funds and resources into urban farming, right? And creating, doing away with food deserts, unless we start really addressing public transportation so that Detroiters don't have to wait an hour for a bus and then we take another hour and a half on that trip to go 5 miles across the city. Unless we start addressing those issues holistically, we're always gonna have this kind of backwards problem where we're trying to reverse engineer solutions to symptoms and not trying to address the cancer that's actually at the root.
A year after his arrest, Michael Oliver has decided to sue the city and the Detroit Police Department. He's hoping it might help him get his life back on track. But also, he wants to ensure no one else suffers through what he experienced.
Dunk out. Yeah, boy. Man, you feel? Oh my God. It was going in there. Yeah, boy.
So before all this happened, were you, was there anything else you wanted or needed in life?
Oh no, everything was everything. I was getting everything I needed and everything I wanted when I was working. It ain't the same no more. It's like I'm back to square one. But like my case was dismissed without prejudice, so it's like they can bring it against me, bring it back up anytime. So I'm glad I'm on probation, but it's like it don't make no difference.
You think you're gonna win your case?
Yes, I'm 100% sure. Well, hopefully I win the case, yeah.
What do you do when you win?
If I was to win, I'm gonna become a real estate agent for sure. That's the first thing I'm gonna become. And take care of my family.
Are you angry at what's happened to you?
I mean, yeah, I'm angry. Yeah, I still go through the phase, you know, every other day. I sit back and think about it, but I get over it. I don't let it bring me down much. I mean, I just want us to live our best life. I mean, I want it back to how it was.
Yeah.
I wasn't want for nothing, he didn't want for nothing. You know, I was taking care of my family, taking care of my son. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I wish it was back to normal. Come on, one, jump. Oh yeah, boom. Oh yeah, oh you almost knocked the rim down, boy. Really?
Hey, thanks for checking out CBSN Originals on YouTube. If you want to watch more documentaries, download the free CBS News app on your phone, tablet, smart TV, or any streaming device. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking down here. Thanks for watching.